Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts Oscar, Ryan, and Will. Today we're going to be discussing David Fincher's new film, The Killer, which got a limited theater run, then was released on Netflix. Obviously, David Fincher, one of the best filmmakers working today, and here we really see him with his perfectionist nature, kind of take the form of a hitman who is on a quest for vengeance after his girlfriend, I believe it is attacked in the line of fire as they're looking for him. So we have a ton to say about this movie, but before we get into it, Will, did you have anything you wanted to open up with before we really dive in deep?
Yeah, I mean, David Fincher's kind of one of my favorite directors. I've just grown so accustomed to his style and his type of filmmaking over the years, so I was really, really excited for this one. And I've got five David Fincher films in my top 100 of all time. So he's just got a way of telling stories that I really resonate with, and I was really excited uh, to watch The Killer, and I was really excited to actually check it out. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in theaters, but I watched it the night it came out on Netflix and was able to watch it through streaming. But yeah, I'm super excited to talk about it. I think it's definitely an amalgamation of a lot of his films, and there's a lot of influence from some of his favorite films as well. So I can't wait to go thoroughly about it and talk about it. But yeah, Ryan, did you want to open it up here with The Killer?
Yeah, obviously Fincher is one of the best working directors, and I was obviously really excited for The Killer as well. He's got a bunch of films that I really love. Social Network's one of my favorite films of all time. That's by far his best in my opinion. So I was obviously very excited by this, and I know Alex doesn't watch trailers, but that was a great trailer. That really elevated my excitement personally as well. Yeah, what did you think about Oscar?
Yeah, I love this film a lot. I think out of the four of us, I think I love it the most. Obviously, I saw this film over a month ago now in a packed cinema at London Film Festival, and just like the experience there was incredible. Kind of the sound design in that kind of theater hall was insane. Yeah, I think this is absolutely one of my favorite Fincher films. Just the style, the everything. I'm a big sucker for an internal monologue. And I think that really added to the levels of this film. I thought it was just so clever. But yeah, those are kind of my quick thoughts. Alex?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the biggest strengths is the inner monologue, and I think that really almost all of the dialogue in this film is in voiceover. There's very little conversation between characters. I think it's not until around 30 minutes into the film when he goes, oh, spoiler warning from here on out. Like, we're going to get it deep into spoilers. So it's on Netflix. Check it out there if you haven't seen it yet. But it's not until about 30 minutes into the film where you hear another character speak when he's in the hospital. And it really kind of lets you know that this is a character who spends kind of like almost like that film noir loner character type of protagonist. But uh, Michael Fassbender's character here is, as a hitman, one of the first lines he talks about is patience and just this patience and waiting and kind of time and tedious things it takes to achieve that perfectionism. And a lot of that is just spent alone with his own thoughts. But David Fincher talks about in interviews, you'll see how the idea of an unreliable narrator, which is actually as old as film itself, and how most people will hear voiceover in a film, and for some reason it's our instinct as viewers, most of us, to believe protagonist. But as we know, not everyone's inner monologue is truthful, and I think in David Fincher's films, you always need to question who it is that is delivering the voiceover to us. And I think it's pretty clear right from the start when we hear all of this, we see this perfectionist preparation, and we see we hear him talk about what is needed to achieve this perfection. And then the first hit that we ever see him do, he fucks up the hit. Like, he misses the shot. So we're trained originally to believe that he is this perfectionist who never messes up, and the first hit we see him do is a failure. And then I think that's a recurring thing throughout where we see him mess up the job actually repeated times. Like later in the fight scene, he's like going through searching the house and we think like he's got it under control. Then the guy gets the first hit on him out of nowhere. And, another one where he kills the guy who's like I think it's his boss, and he's trying to get the names out of him. And the way his tactics are brutal because he wants to get revenge on this person. But at the same time, it's also a botched murder because he kills him in a way where the guy can't say the names to him even if he wants to. So I really love the inner monologue, and I think it is one of the biggest strengths of the film, how we're isolated in this character's perspective, and most of the conversation is really just him talking to himself. But Ryan, do you have any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, it's just exactly like you were saying. It was such a great introduction to the killer. Like straight off the bat, just there was so much influences that you could just see from other films, like Samurai. That was apparent just from the trailers that it'd be carrying over that kind of like cold nature and pastel palette, like the kind of uniform that he was wearing as like a killer. And obviously a lot of like Rear Window esque moments in the first 20 minutes, really setting up the killer, which does really well. Which I really enjoyed that first 20 minute scene. It's maybe quite slow for people, but it is really such a great scene. And like you were exactly like you were saying, it was setting up that he's like a perfectionist, kind of a master of his craft. Only for him to again, yeah, slip up and kind of takes us more from like a character study to kind of more of a cliche revenge story. More kind of like more like a John Wick actually. It was kind of like that. I'm to get revenge on a coming to his house and I'm almost taking one of his loved ones. Yeah, so the rest of the film's a bit more chaotic, like you were saying, rather than that structured professionalism like we see at the start. There's a lot of like having to alter his roles, having to improvise, and at times he does let his emotions get the best of him. But yeah, Michael Fassbender's so great in this role. It's really great to see him coming back, and it's a very cold and calculated like role. I think it's kind of different to his other ones, but I think he does such a great time, or it gives such a great performance here. Really shines despite like that like possibility for maybe it being a bit too distant from the viewer, because it is very clean and meticulous nature of the film. Like maybe like wouldn't really feel the emotion of it really because of his type of character. But he does bring a lot of like charisma and he's got a really serious like deadpan execution, which I think really works well here. And it's such a great physical presence as well, which tells us a lot about the killer like straight away. Because he's not really talking for a lot of dialogue as well, so it's really different. I really like the monologue. I like monologues in films most of the time. I know some people can hate that, but I do tend to love it, and I think it works really well here. But yeah, I really loved the start particularly. What did you think, Will?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like just with everything you guys are saying, David Fincher's made it abundantly clear how much he loves this unreliable narrator. We've seen it all throughout his works in Fight Club, most notably. But this idea that you lie to yourself every day, you go about your day and you're telling yourself little white lies that you think are what the truth is, right? Perception is reality in that sense. So, this idea that he's a cold, calculated, has no empathy, just murders and murders is it's a complete lie, quite frankly, and that's shown by the latter half of the film, right? He goes on this villainous rampage to seek revenge for his wife or girlfriend that was caught in the crossfire. So he repeats this kind of like no emotion, be precise, do this, that, and the other. But he completely doesn't abide by his own moral code by the end of the film, and I think that's a nice little um, character development or character, I guess, deviation or again unreliable narrator that Fincher uses so well. And I just kind of want to cycle back to like the Fincher style, and I think everyone's kind of come to the Fincher green and blue color grade, like you see in every one of his films, Fight Club, Panic Room, even The Social Network, Zodiac in particular. He's just got this really ominous, cold color grade that he likes to employ for these very introspective, monologuing characters. And I think it's just so prevalent and good, especially in like the first 20, 30 minutes. Like when the film is at its best, honestly, when it's in Paris. Like that first act was completely engrossing for me. And I thought like aesthetically, stylistically, I cared what was going on. Like I just really appreciated how much detail went into the frame. And like you guys mentioned, there's just so much influence in other great films. Like immediately, Rear Window jumps off the page. I was thinking Batman from 2022, when the Riddler kind of gets a similar opening. I was thinking John Wick. I was thinking Jason Bourne. There's just a lot of different influence and a lot of pull going on from a lot of different films that I thought was like thematically and stylistically rich from Fincher. A little safe because it does kind of fall into what he does best and what he knows best in terms of like style. But not necessarily to its downfall, I'd say. Like it kind of fits in that Fincher thriller noir aesthetic so perfectly, and he's just kind of hitting on all the beats that he does so well. So for me, I loved it. Like it was everything I wanted. I'm a huge Smiths fan as well. I'm sure we'll get into the soundtrack a bit later on, but it was just everything I wanted from a Fincher movie, but just a little safe, like a little bit tame. I thought at this point in his career, I was something expecting a little bit more grandiose, maybe something to just really woo me this time. But I don't know, it was very Fincher, very voiceover narration, inner monologue, unreliable narrator, great colors, cold, calculated, precise. So I can't complain on that front. Like stylistically, it was Fincher to a T. So I was really enthralled by that aspect, but maybe a little let down because my expectations were so high. But from a style standpoint, character standpoint, I absolutely adored it. And that first act, like you guys said, was phenomenal for me. But Oscar, I'll stop my rambling there.
Yeah, it's so great to see Michael Fassbender for a bit of a comeback because he's not had the greatest times, and I know next month it probably won't be great for him either. He's got another film coming out that's not looking great reviews so far, but yeah, he was absolutely perfect casting for this role. Um, the opening scene, like you guys just said, I was just sat in that cinema and packed place, and I was just so locked in. But I was also quite surprised because even from the trailers, I did kind of not expect that kind of opening because I just love that kind of slow style, that build up, and how long that first scene was, and it was executed to perfection. And then it takes kind of a turn of pacing, I guess. It gets kind of a lot quicker, and we're moving from place to place. But I know a lot of people can have other problem of like a lacking overall plot, but I kind of saw it as kind of he was the plot. It's kind of a really, really good character study that is carried by a really, really great screenplay. I also thought this is very surprisingly one of the funniest films of the year. Just kind of his all his imperfections and is kind of just the out of nowhere kind of swear words that he's just using. He's just like fuck out of nowhere as soon as he makes a mistake and things like that. But yeah, like Will said, the Constant Smith songs were very, very funny. Crowd laughing. I think if it wasn't for my screening having subtitles, I would have had no idea that they were all Smith songs because I do not listen to the Smiths at all. Sorry, Will. Um, but yeah. The sound design absolutely probably one of the maybe the second best sound design of the year behind Oppenheimer for me. It kind of carried this film along in kind of the fight scenes and with the editing as well. I thought those two coupled together worked really, really well. And it kind of the whole thing just felt like a video game, really, like the Hitman video games. Like each chapter was like a mission or a level. And I really, really enjoyed that kind of style of it. I just really, really enthralled in kind of the whole world of everything. But yeah, those are kind of some of my key thoughts on kind of the first part of the film and other parts. So yeah, back to you, Alex.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about the main character, who I think is a very interesting character, and I think Fincher does a great job with the character study here. And just from the very start with the inner monologue, he's almost has the mindset of like a machine rather than being a human being. And there's this constantly thinking in numbers and how nothing is personal, and it's a world, and all the people within the world, nothing's personal. It's just business and the nature of what it is they do. And he has these mantras to kind of keep him as more of a machine minded than kind of human emotionally minded. And like he barely speaks, even in the scenes when he's with other people like Tilda Swinton. He really doesn't speak very much. The kills are super abrupt and sudden. It's not like there's like almost like a Sergio Leone or Tarantino where there's these build ups. They're super sudden, and like the second he doesn't need them anymore, they're dead. And like I said, he talks in the very beginning about how many people are born and die every second, and how insignificant all of the murders are. And just so happens that in this business, civilians get caught in the line of fire, which happens on the very first hit. And then right after that, a civilian who he cares about is caught in the line of fire. And then all of a sudden, it's no longer just a number, an insignificant number that doesn't matter anymore. And he's now seeing, I don't think he even realizes it. It's never addressed in the inner monologue, but now he talks about these numbers as so small and insignificant, yet everything in the film that is small and insignificant makes a very big difference. Just like the inches of where his scope is lined up end up killing the wrong person, just from that very small change in his perception, in what he does, has a huge difference. Just like how you remove one person from the world, it has a very big effect. Even though from his number mindset, it seems, and machine mindset, it seems insignificant, but then I think a lot of it is also he's dealing with the aftermath of failure, where it's not by his logic machine mind, it's not logical to go on this vengeance rampage. It's go to the next job, and just keep doing what it is he does. But that's not what he does. It's very personal. And Fassbender doesn't play it with any real emotion. He still has that persona of being very machine-like, but at the same time, he's there is clearly an emotion behind it. I do think a criticism I have is that, obviously the girl is what motivates him on this quest that he goes on, but at the same time, the film doesn't really ever kind of give us any type of clue as to why he cares about her or make us care about her or feel any type of way. Like, I think every other character besides him is very forgettable, and like they're kind of just there quickly and then bang, like they're dead. And all the side characters feel very insignificant, which I understand to a degree because there's that mindset he has of that human beings are insignificant. The character who clearly does matter to him, we don't feel like she doesn't matter to us as the audience, which I do think is a criticism I have of the film. And then lastly, we're seeing, the challenges of perfectionism, which I'm sure Fincher is very familiar with, that chasing perfection, but us all being human and imperfect at the end of the day. And just even someone like this, who is the most seasoned of killers, at least it seems, like we know he makes a lot of money and we see enough guns to know that this isn't his first rodeo. And even someone who's as seasoned as him is still going to make multiple mistakes along the way. So I think just a very interesting character study, and a big strength of the film is the lead character. But Will, what are your thoughts on Fassbender's lead character?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like in terms of a character, Fassbender puts the movie on his back. He's just about the only character that you really kind of get to see behind the eyes of, and by design, like it's really about Fassbender and his psyche and how he's approaching the situation. And I thought that the arc that he kind of undergoes is a little bit brash, like Alex is saying. Like you don't really have the feel and care, the love that Fassbender has for this woman. Like obviously it's his girlfriend or whatever, but I kind of agree that was one of my gripes with the film. He goes on this rampage for a girl we met for a couple minutes. Obviously there's more there, but yeah, that was kind of my gripes with this character. Um, but other than that, I think they do a really good job of like humanizing him, and we kind of see it in like some other more action flickies, like I said, like Bourne or Wick, where he's kind of a superhero hitman, where he can fire off a million rounds and jump, dodge, dip, duck, dive like Superman. But I think they did a pretty good job of keeping Fassbender's character pretty real and human. And a good example of that was when he actually just misses the shot. He basically has a panic attack. Like he's like, "Holy shit, what is going on? I can't believe I just missed." Packing up his stuff. Fincher uses a great use of rack focus where he's shifting the focal length of the camera to put your eye on different particular aspects. It's a really jarring approach to how he does it. And then Fassbender's walking down that stair. We get that top-down shot of the stairs. You almost feel that like heart pounding. There's like beeping going on. You feel like people are looking at you. It's like this really tense, anxiety-inducing scene that I think is done really well based on Fincher's style. But it kind of comes down back to the character and the nature of Fassbender's character. Like he's just a normal guy, like you and me. Obviously, he's paid millions of dollars to conduct out these murders, but at the end of the day, he's doing it just as you and I would do it, right? We're setting up the shot, we're trying to be precise, this, that, and the other, but sometimes shit goes wrong, and you have to deal with these situations. So I thought that was a really good balance, a really good human approach to this kind of super real hitman type character. Um, it kind of veers away from that with the fight scene that we'll kind of talk about later on. But I thought, like as a character, Fassbender did a really good job of, well, fleshing him out with small little details and facial acting, and just really good writing. Like the screenplay definitely is a strength of this. So Fassbender just kind of slips into the role seamlessly with that unreliable inner monologue that we've so come to love with all this Fincher stuff. But yeah, Ryan, did you have any remarks on the character or Fassbender's contribution to the film?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I do agree with the fact that there's not really a lot of emotion behind what he's doing, which is probably on purpose, to go with the kind of tone of the film. But I do think that does hurt his arc, especially towards the end. I feel it's quite a sudden change in his character, but we'll get onto that later on. But yeah, kind of moving on to the revenge part of the story. It's kind of like an episodic structure, which is very different to the start. The start's about 30 minutes into the film, I think it was, so it's very different to that. professionalism like side start where he's proper in that assassin mode. Um, but I think it's a very well paced like film in general because of this. Like it does give you that like satisfying like payoff towards the end of each chapter, and like it does hook you at the start of the next chapter, so it's constantly keeping you intrigued throughout the whole film. However, it doesn't give as much of a character study after that point, like going forward. It's more like this long mission that he's on and to get revenge. And like Alex was saying, you don't really get much connection to any of those characters. And Kennedy's girlfriend, you don't really see much of him, and then we just get brief moments with the people that he's killing, so we don't really connect to either of them. But it is entertaining, so it does give us that, but it doesn't give us much more than that to think about. And these chapters of the film, Oscar was saying earlier, like that's really, really where they feel like a Hitman game. I really feel we forgot to talk about the intro, which I'm really glad they done that because nobody seems to do that anymore with credits at the start. I always think they're really cool, and I don't know if
Fincher
it's,
always does that though. Like Fight Club had really cool intro
yeah,
credits. Even like Social Network's got really cool ones. Like Fincher always goes hard with the intro credits, bro. You
yeah,
have to.
I miss those.
Intro and intro credits in general now. No, intro and end credits now are just so dead now
I know,
compared
and
to
it's like a
what they
lost art,
were.
man. Like you remember
It
Spider-Man 2?
is.
Yeah, Spider-Man's are so
2,
good where they sum up the whole
oh
film
my,
before.
I know. But yeah, great shout out. Those intro and outro credits were really fantastic.
Yeah,
Mm.
and they feel exactly like a Hitman game. Like it feels like cutscenes from those, and like once we go into those chapters, it feels even more like that. Like he's building disguises, building weapons, cars, and he's planning routes in and out of buildings. That it feels exactly like the games if you played them. And they managed to feel. I think all the chapters feel pretty unique in their own right. With the kind of my favorite was the brute, the brute. He doesn't really have much character development because he is just kind of that hunk of meat that's there to have this like great fight scene, which I think is one of the best fight scenes of the year. I did rewatch it on Netflix, and it's a very dark film. It's quite actually quite hard to see what's happening in that scene, so I don't think it was quite as good as in theaters, as it was on Netflix. So there is that, but yeah, and we also have the restaurant scene with Tilda Swinton, that we talked about. Like she is always great. Just a consistent performer in every film she's in. She really is probably one of the most underrated actresses now because I think she does do a lot of like independent films, so she doesn't get the like respect that she gets. So it's cool to see her in a big Fincher film. And it does kind of tend to or try to dive into his character again, but I don't really think it does much developing his character in those scenes. But yeah, it's a scene we've seen a lot of times in films, but I don't think it revolutionizes anything that we've seen before. But it is a fun scene again with two great actors on show. So I still did really enjoy it. But Oscar, what did you think about this section of the movie?
Yeah, it was I think like you said, Ryan, I think Fincher does really, really well at kind of distinguishing kind of each chapter because I think it's really easy to kind of fall into a really repetitive kind of sense of just like going and killing people. But I think there's kind of a really good mixture in there of ways that it happens. Like some are slightly more drawn out, some have got multiple characters in them, and then obviously got the kind of brute fight scene, which in the cinema was absolutely electric. I think the kind of nod to the sound design, kind of every punch you kind of felt, every slam against the wall was, and it came out of nowhere because I really wasn't expecting it. And even like every just bullet shot anywhere, any shot in the back of the head, you just really, really felt. And I kind of feel bad that kind of, well, not feel bad. I'm just really annoyed that Netflix they kind of have such limited theater releases compared to someone like Apple, who's kind of going out and like having wide theater releases for things like Killers of Flower Moon and Napoleon. But I think this absolutely deserves to be seen in a cinema. And kind of going back to Fassbender's character and that kind of reoccurring like stick to the plan and things like that. I think it's you get to the point it's just used so often that it almost becomes like comical and absurd, which kind of is kind of just adding to his character. I think that is my cinema. Every time he just says that, would just people just kind of start laughing because you're kind of just looking at this character who's just wants to be able to do his job to perfection, and he's just becoming so obsessed with it, and it's just taking over his life. But I think that was a really, really nice touch to it. But yeah, I think just kind of like I said, the variety of the kind of missions and kills that he's kind of going on just is it was good to see. But yeah, kind of back to you, Alex.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely one of the best choreographed fights of like the films to come out recently. Definitely one of the best of the year. Like Ryan said, I think a big strength of the choreography is them being able to keep the fight in the dark. So, obviously, Fassbender stuntman that frees up a lot of abilities of what they can do with them because they don't really need to worry about hiding his face like they would if it was a daytime fight. And it's really not like a coverage fight. What I mean by that is they kind of didn't just shoot a bunch of punches from different angles and then just mash cut them together, shaky cam. Like every cut feels very pre-planned and organized. It probably took them a very long time and the bulk of the shooting just to film that fight sequence. With there's like a lot of scenes where like multiple punches and ducks are thrown in the same shot, and it's very well choreographed, not just with the actors and the stunt guys, but also when they cut with the camera, like where it's placed, all feels very intentional and calculated. Broken glass everywhere. They use tons of broken glass in this fight between breaking stuff when they're sliding along the floor. Uh, yeah, and then then even like when he finally kills the guy, there's then the conflict of the dog, which honestly feels just as high stakes as the actual fight itself, which kind of almost like when we talked about like Jurassic Park with Spielberg, how he just keeps the conflict going even after the obstacles kind of defeated. Like I think Fincher did a great job there keeping that tension. But one thing I really want to talk about is the way Fincher uses sound in this film. And we talked kind of about the Netflix giving it a limited release, and I think that it might unfortunately be kind of a less memorable film in Fincher's filmography, and I think that uh, Netflix could have a big part to do with that. I don't think it's really gonna leave the same impact it would have had on the audience had they seen it in the theater. But I think also, if you're gonna watch this film, and I rarely say this, I think you're better off watching it on a computer with headphones in than watching it on your TV. Because I do think it's a very sound over picture film, and some people might disagree with me, but I think was much more impressed by what he did with the sound than the visual storytelling of the film necessarily. Obviously, we've talked about the voiceover, a very good soundtrack. The score is like a pulse score; it feels like a heartbeat to the film, but at a very quick pace for what those typically are. And just in one of the early opening scenes, like when he's watching from like across the high rise building, and he talks about the advantage of not having to hear the screams and the sirens and being at a distance because of sound. And Fincher makes us very aware of the distance of sounds where he changes the volume of the sound very harshly on every single cut to the point where you notice pretty much every cut of the film. This is a film with a very good soundtrack that you cannot enjoy because it's he constantly is breaking the flow. It's not like a Scorsese or Tarantino or pretty much just about every other filmmaker where they can play a piece of music and it just trances you in and it gets you just locked in. Fincher's constantly breaking that trance by, you hear a song and you're locked in and then just hard cut. Like every time it cuts, you're hearing the sound at a different volume, which is so unsettling. And I think, at least my interpretation is that maybe he wanted to show how difficult it is to someone to focus to this degree, where it's like how hard it is to get his head to focus, but he's about to kill people in such a high stakes way. But there certainly is noticeable cuts, and it's definitely a sound movie with the way he uses the score and just sound effects as a whole. Which is why I think people are better off watching this on a computer with headphones in because I think it's a very auditory film, and that is a core part of the experience is being immersed in not just the way this character sees the world, but the way the character hears the world. So, but Oscar, do you have any thoughts on the sound design or just anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, the sound design. I kind of said this in kind of some of my reviews on TikTok. I think this is the biggest kind of carrier for this movie, as well as Michael Fassbender, because I feel like the sound design just helps so many things along. Kind of like the fight scenes that I said, it makes those fight scenes so impactful. Every gunshot, every kind of mission and level, it just kind of ups the technical achievement of every scene. And I think, like I said, it just makes it so much more impactful and so much more meaningful. And yeah, I agree with kind of the thing you're saying about the headphones, the laptop. I think this is definitely more of a sound-driven film. Although I would say I think there are some absolutely incredible shots in this film. I think the cinematography is fantastic as well. But yeah, I just feel for people that haven't seen this in the theater, because in this would have been killed in an IMAX theater, definitely, with the sound of some of these things. That I would love to have seen this in IMAX, but unfortunately, it isn't in there. Um, but yeah, I think kind of one of the things I wanted to add in kind of the comedy in this film, I think, like I said, it was a real surprise. That kind of some of the lines, some of the things he says, he's kind of very judgmental of where he's in. I think one of my favorite lines is when he says New Orleans, 1,000 restaurants, one menu. And I don't know why that just made me laugh so much. But yeah, I was just really impressed with kind of the balance of the screenplay and of the character, because obviously it's a very dark subject, just going around killing people. But then Fincher just manages to mix in this almost unintentional humor with these characters, and I think I was just really, really impressed by that. But yeah, anyone got anything else to add?
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was.
I just
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say there's again there's quite a lot of comedic moments. I agree. Like when he says he wants to dress up as like a German tourist because nobody wants to go near a German when they're in a foreign country. That was funny. And the score, or not the score, the soundtrack was like kind of funny at times as well. Like because he was obviously always listening to the Smiths. When he's getting the fly back and he sees the guy watching him, or he's paranoid in case he's watching him, and then he gets another flight the next day. It's the Smith song. It's like I'll probably never see you again. There was like some jokes in like with the song titles. I just felt that was quite
They did
good.
that a few times. There was one I wrote it down. They had the Well I Wonder by the Smiths, and he that was just before he's about to shoot the bullet, and that's some existential shit about his life, like Well I Wonder. And then when he's putting on the gloves to deal with the dead body, there's another Smith song called like When I Put On Gloves, or I Put On Gloves or something. So there was like a
Mm.
lot of like wordplay with the soundtrack and what he's actually doing, which I thought was really funny and really clever. But
Like
yeah, it's funny that you noticed that as well.
the whole like, attention to detail across the film, I thought was just so impressive, and that just obviously reflects the character as well, not just kind of from a filmmaking standpoint, which is thought was just so funny. Like just like him eating the McDonald's on that bench, just quietly judging everybody. I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, and there's a great quote that he uses at the beginning that like completely counteracts his whole like McDonald's love. It's like, the few have always exploited the many, and he's like he thinks he's part of the few, but at the end of the day, he's really the many. You
Mm,
know, like he's the
yeah.
guy
Yeah,
eating the McDonald's. You know, so I
yeah,
don't know. It's like a very layered film, like very intricate. You could tell that Fincher had a desk and storyboarded the whole damn thing out and saw every frame by frame. But yeah, very intricate, very detailed. Um,
mm,
Soundtrack and movie just in
yeah.
general.
Just everything about the
So
sound is so detailed. Like even just when he's doing the voiceovers and he's switching between the monologue and like the music, I thought that was really cool. Like mixing it in, because usually you'd either just be completely listening to the music or just be straight dialogue, but yeah, he kind of mixes it in between, going in between when he's like, particularly start when he's going in with the sniper at the window, it's switching in between dialogue and music quite a lot. But yeah, I really like that part. But yeah,
Even when he's
yeah, I think
like doing like yoga and stuff and warming up in the beginning on that mat that he just lays out, I thought it was
yeah,
hilarious.
that's my favorite part of the movie. Like that 30 minutes, and even the scene when you think he's gonna have to kill that innocent mailman, right? He walks
Mm,
up the stairs and he's like, in the line of work, sometimes people get caught in the crossfire, and he's got the sniper aimed at the door, and the guy opens the door and
mm,
just drops the mail. It's like great tension building there, but it's like he's willing to kill this innocent guy right then and there, or at least he would have. But yeah, really good moment, and the sound design in that particular moment too, because he hears the door at the bottom of the stairs, he hears the guy walk up the stairs, he hears the door open, he sees the mail fall. Like there's just so much detail with how you're hearing things and where you're hearing it in space. Like Alex said, the crescendos and up and down the volume is it's really prevalent because especially he's got headphones in too. Like it's kind of Baby Driver esque. Like he's putting on headphones and then he's taking them out, so you're getting a lot of different like what's the word, like sounds that are consuming the space, and then you're also getting like very detailed sounds, so getting like fully in both ways, like non-diegetic and diegetic. So yeah, just another testament to how great like the sound design was. um but yeah, I digress.
Yeah, I think also another thing he does with the sound that's it's very subtle but kind of really throws you off in an unsettling way is a lot of times the end of the sentences are cut off just by like a word or a syllable. Like they'll be cut short, whether it's an interruption or like a cut. Like in this film, if you notice, there's a lot of times where the end of a sentence is like cut off. But yeah, also I agree. I love that first act. Like the first act of the film, I was like blown away. I thought like this is, David Fincher like on his A game. But I do think the third act is kind of weak. Like I think the scene with Tilda Swinton, like the performances are great, and like Fincher's known to do a lot of takes, and you could tell like he took out just the most like precise, like best facial movements for Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton. Who it's not that they're either of them are bad in the scene; they're both great performances, but I don't know. It just feels kind of like dull and like nothing elevated the scene. There were no real impactful story beats. I felt like, and I do think the third act gets kind of brings the film down a bit. And the ending, I think a lot of people are going to find to be very anticlimactic, which I do understand. Like, kind of the Tilda Swinton scene's underwhelming, and then the scene with the rich guys, like it's tense, but like it's not the most impactful way to kind of go towards the end of the film. And then them on the island together just feels like I don't know. They really didn't leave me with much to like sit or think on when I left the theater. And I do think the third act is probably the weakest of the film. Also, I think that I can't help but even from like when I was watching that first act, think that the film would have been better in black and white. Like it just feels so noir-esque. It feels the color's not used in any kind of calculated way. It's used in a very like realism way. Like there's moments like when he takes the fob off of the one guy to go to that gym where like it's red and it's small and like your eyes drawn to that red, but like most of the color use doesn't feel very calculated necessarily, which isn't it's not a flaw. He just went for a more realism approach. But considering that he wasn't really using his color palette to tell his story, I just think that black and white would have elevated the film on such a high level. And I do think the film would have been better had he shot it in black and white. But that's just my personal opinion.
That's actually
Uh,
that's interesting you say that, Alex. Sorry to interject, but
I don't know.
a comment I was gonna bring up earlier was at the beginning of the film there's like the deep green and blue, like the David Fincher color grade that we always see. And at the end of the film it's like a way more realistic color grade. And it's like that change in color isn't super noticeable or super prevalent in the storytelling. I almost think it's rushed. Like I almost agree with you. Maybe it would have been better if you just omitted that completely. But I did notice a difference. It was like cold and isolating kind of in the beginning, and then when he's in a warmer island type setting, the colors are a bit lifted, like warmer colors. So I did feel that in terms of the visual storytelling, but it was kind of like sudden and not impactful enough for me to like get behind that decision. So I agree. Like maybe this would have been better in black and white. But that's a very interesting perspective. I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry to interject.
Oh no, that's good. Honestly, I didn't realize what you just said. I actually didn't realize that kind of change in color palette from like obviously the last and the island is very saturated compared to the rest of them. But now I actually didn't really notice that Fincher-esque like cold opening compared to later. So I'm definitely gonna pay attention to that on a
Yeah.
rewatch.
But I didn't think it added much. Like it was almost jarring. Like the first scene is so stylistically green and blue, and then the last scene is just like something out of a Marvel movie, like full key light, like completely like wait, where did the style go? Like so it was a bit jarring in that sense for me at least. But if it wasn't even like seen, then maybe it wasn't that jarring. But yeah, interesting perspective on the color there.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps up most of my thoughts on the film, though. I think it's Fincher chasing perfectionism so he can be as good of a filmmaker as Jeff Profit, but I think that's the core motivation of the is he wants to make something on the level of a Jeff Profit movie. So
Do
that's
yourself a
my
favor if you don't know who Jeff Profit is, don't watch any of his movies. Just stay away.
he's the
But I
goat.
actually I had a few more thoughts just about like the pacing. We talked about the third act kind of dipping down in quality in comparison to the first two, which I tend to agree honestly. But I thought the Tilda Swinton chapter, I liked that. I thought the story about the bear, like him coming back and coming back, it's like, do you really want to hunt or is there something else you're doing? And I think that was kind of a reflection, like, did Fassbender even like wanna be a hitman or like I don't know, it just called into an interesting question. But I didn't think the fight scene was like a little over the top for me. It wasn't like my favorite chapter. And then the other two were like not as memorable. So for me, it was kind of like that imbalance that kind of made the final act a little bit harder, not harder to follow, but a little bit jarring because I cared about these interactions and I didn't care and then I cared. So I don't know if the ending kind of landed smoother or had like a more, I don't know, something with a bit more depth, something a bit more existential maybe. I would have enjoyed the ending, but it was kind of just like, oh yeah, being a hitman's kind of bad. I'm gonna retire, and then he retires. So I don't know. I thought I just wanted a bit more. But yeah, the third act is definitely the weakest for me. Not that it was bad. I still enjoyed it. Again, I forgot to mention I give this a 4 out of 5. So I did really like it, but it wasn't super awesome, amazing as much as I should have loved considering the Smiths, David Fincher, Fassbender. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy it, and I thought the killer was good from start to finish. But yeah, Oscar or Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, just that I gave this film a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely the highest out of the four of us. Um,
Yeah, what are you guys sitting
really,
at, Ryan and Alex? Sorry.
I'm sitting at a 4 out of 5 as well.
I have a very low 4 out of 5. On a second watch, I did consider bringing it down to a 3.5, but I do like the use of voiceover in the inner monologue and Fincher's kind of obsession with perfectionism. So that's kind of what kept it at a 4 for me, but definitely kind of bordering on a 3.5 if I'm being honest.
I do a 4.5. Honestly, I think I'm on the higher end of a 4. So I don't know. Maybe on a rewatch it'd go up, but yeah, it's at 4 for me.
Mm.
Ryan, you sounded like you were kind of similar to Alex.
Yeah, I'm quite a low 4. Mainly because of that third act, like you were saying. Like that was my main concern coming out of the film. Like it just doesn't leave you with much to chew on after you've left it, because it's a great time, but I did feel kind of underwhelmed by the ending. Like I don't know, it kind of confused me because, or not, it wasn't confusing, but throughout the film, Fassbender like kind of is really strict to those rules, like you were saying, and he like, ruthlessly like follows them to the point where like he's showing no emotion to like even like a pleading mother, or it was basically just a secretary, like she wasn't really involved that much in it, or killing a taxi man that had no connection at all to it. Like he was really ruthless with his emotions, and really sticking to those main rules, but like he kind of broke them at the end, which kind of came out of nowhere. I think I didn't really think it was that good of an arc, and especially since there was no repercussions to doing that. Like, I think it left it a bit too clean of an ending, and it was maybe a bit safe to me. Like during his last task, like taking out the man who was who put the hit on him. He finally does like let that emotion like take over him, and he's kind of like just letting this guy go with after nothing. Like he breaks into his business, and he just kind of lets him go. He doesn't do anything to him. But yeah, he kind of just leaves that life behind and goes back to his luxury house, and then just nothing happens because this is the first time that he's working with. Mo Fincher's been working with his writer Andrew Kevin Walker like since Seven, so I really did think there was going to be that big twist, like he did in that, but yeah, it just left me a bit unsatisfied with just kind of a safe ending. And yeah, it just didn't really impact me emotionally as well. So I think that was a big detriment on the film. So yeah, I've got it a low 4.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. The emotional impact of that final act just kind of wasn't there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of felt like they didn't really know how to land the plane. Like they wanted him to get out, but he got out in such a clean way that it was like, was anything even worth it? So yeah, I know, I kind of agree with that. I would have loved to have loved it. Like this is everything that should have been a 5 star for me. Like Fassbender, Fincher, the Smiths, like this it was tracking for 5, but fell a little bit short in the end. I think that's kind of all of our um consensus review. We did enjoy it, but maybe a little underwhelming at times. Um, but yeah, did anyone else have any big thoughts on David Fincher's The Killer? Awesome. So I think we can wrap up that review. As always, check out the movie. It's on Netflix and let us know what you thought. Give us your comments, feedback. All of our letterboxes are down there. So go comment on our reviews. Let us know what you think because it's important to engage with this stuff. It's good, does well for our channel. But now I think we're going to go into a David Fincher collaborative ranking. Is that right, gentlemen? I think I'm pass it off to Ryan. He'll explain how we're going to do it. And yeah,
Yeah, so we're gonna go in 1 to 4, just going. I think we're doing a top 10. Is that right?
top 10. Yeah.
hmm
Yep. So we're doing a top 10 ranking of all of David Fincher's films. Just his feature films. We're not including the Love, Death, and Robots episode. And
Even though that's really good.
yes, it is
Mm.
good, but I don't think it's fair to match it up against these films. So
Agreed.
I've gone order. So we're gonna go from Oscar to Alex to me, and then Will, and we'll just keep going back in that order. So yeah, we have one veto each. So if someone decides they want to put Social Network at 10, I can say hell no, and they have to pick a new film. But yeah, I think that's all the rules we've got. So, Alex, or Oscar, do you want to start? Is it?
Yeah. This is an easy 10th
Don't even
place.
fucking think about it.
I haven't seen it, so I'm not. It's Alien 3, definitely. I don't think it's a bad film at all. I like it slightly more than a lot of people. I think it's a perfectly fine film, but it definitely sits last in its filmography for me.
Wait, are we at the bottom of the filmography, or are we at 10?
10.
10.
So something's gonna miss. Something will miss.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair pick because like Fincher doesn't even like say that's his own film. Like there was a lot of like studio interference for that.
There was a low studio interference with that, but yeah, I think it's an okay film. It's definitely not the worst of the franchise.
That is the only David Fincher film I haven't seen, and honestly, I don't want to watch.
I don't think it's a terrible film.
Probably better than Mank. It's probably better than Mank, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
I'm
Yeah.
not even valid.
It is a terrible alien film, but yeah,
Resurrection's way worse, in my opinion.
it's kind of a mid-off, but yeah, it's more fact that this comes after
No.
Aliens. which-
This is mid. Alien Resurrection is like way below that.
No, because when you come after the masterpiece that is Aliens by the greatest director of all time, James Cameron, then your film is going to look
I
terrible
was coming, I was
in retrospect.
No. Aliens is not even a top 3 Alien film.
James Cameron could never be Jeff Prophet.
True.
Okay,
Right,
so Alex next.
Number
or-
9.
All right, I think number 9. I think that's a good spot. I think The Killer's a good number 9's a good spot for it.
What?
Killer?
What?
I didn't think
I'm
that was
not gonna
like,
beat it.
crazy take
I
all.
don't, yeah,
What?
I don't agree with it.
I don't want to
Veto
veto
it,
it. I know
Oscar, go ahead.
I know, I'm not going to because someone's going to do something way worse later on. But that's crazy.
Damn, so Killer's gonna go.
I didn't think
nine.
that was going to be controversial at all, honestly.
That's crazy.
I
I have that
higher.
way higher.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
I'll say
wow,
later
Killer-
where I got it, but what?
Oh, a hot take, sure.
Somebody's gonna. I'm just waiting for Alex to put Mank really high so I can just get rid of it. But that's crazy. I have that way higher.
Okay, so we're letting him have that.
Yeah, let him have it.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so I've got number 8.
That was going to be controversial.
It's just a bit too low. Number 8.
I've only seen 8 of this film, so.
Yeah, true, same. But I'm gonna go The Game. I actually watched that today.
My number 8 as well.
Yeah,
That was also
Good
my
film.
number eight.
Good film. I really like that
it's
film.
decent.
Yeah, but that's one of those like
It's
where it's like it's a
good.
good film, but it's not in the top half of his filmography. Like it's just not,
Exactly.
you know.
It's not, but it's. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're in a pretty good spot actually. Now maybe I can sneak this in here. I'm number 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mank at number 7.
Ooh.
Veto. There it is.
Oh no.
All right. Then at number 7, I'm gonna take Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Okay, I've not seen that, so I'm fine with that.
Great film. Oh, someone needs to put Mank dancing before Alex. Actually, no. So wait, whose turn is it? Is yours, Ryan?
No, it goes
No, it's
back
you
up to
again.
you, Oscar.
Oh, wait. Oh yeah, you put the game. Yeah. What number are we at? 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking Fight Club at 6.
Ooh.
It's actually quite a bit lower in my ranking, but I'm having it here.
It's pretty low, but
I'm gonna veto that. Fight Club deserves to be higher. I'm gonna veto
It
that.
does.
No, it doesn't. It deserves to be lower.
For my film bros. For my film bros. Vetoed. Get vetoed. Pick another film.
7 then.
I'm fine with
That was almost worse.
Anyone gonna veto that?
I can live with that
can't.
one. It's not like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan and I are the only one with vetoes left.
Yeah.
And I can't pick Mank because I haven't seen it.
I'm definitely fine with 7 at 6.
Okay.
Should have been 7.
Damn, so
but-
Mank is gonna be a top 5 Fincher. There's no way Mank is a top 5. I can't believe this is happening.
No. No. It's not going to be a top
It is,
5
it
pick.
could be higher.
No.
Thank you, only
We're
a 5.
going to make sure it's not on here at all. We're
Okay,
making sure
alright,
it just doesn't appear on here at all.
Number 5. It could be higher. Be thankful it's not higher.
Are you going Mank here?
If you
Number
go
5?
here, I'm taking it next.
Mhm.
Is it Alex's turn? Is it?
It's number 5.
I'm gonna veto
It
it.
could be worse.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And then
thank
Oscar's
you.
got
Pick
one
another
left.
five.
No. But if he takes what I think he's going to take at 5, then I might veto that.
What? Oh no.
No.
Social network.
Right, go ahead. Alex.
Oh my god, bro. There's no
You shouldn't have vetoed that. You should have let him have it at
I'll
5
give you a
and just
chance
get
to
it out of the
take Mank,
way.
you know. I'll settle for Mank at 5, and you can have your social network higher.
Give him
Oh.
Mank at 5.
I didn't start
Give him
this.
Mank
Can we
at
go
5.
back?
Just give him
Yes,
Mank
we'll
at
go back.
5.
We'll take Mank
Okay.
at 5.
If I can take it back.
Oh my god. Okay.
Mank
That's
higher than 7.
I warned you. I said, listen, I'll take it at 5. I'll compromise.
Oh my god. All right,
Yeah, you
so
wanna
that
work.
means
Yeah.
Ryan, you still have your veto, and Oscar still has.
Yeah,
his
I
veto?
still got my veto.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mank goes in
Right.
at number 5. All right, Ryan,
That's a great
number
score.
4.
I'm going to go Fight Club. I mean, that's fair.
Out spot.
Yeah.
5 spots too high, but that's fine.
No, it's not bad.
After Fight Club.
And then I'm gonna go. I'm 4, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a good
Actually,
place
no,
for.
you're 3. You're 3 actually. 4 was
That
Fight
might be-
Club.
Yeah, you're 3.
Oh, okay. So damn, this is like top 3 Fincher. Okay, no, this is a good spot. I'll go Gone Girl.
Damn.
That's where I have it.
I was
so-
rooting for that to land at 1, honestly.
Cool.
Okay, so 2.
Interesting. So 2. What do we
What do we
still
have left? We've got.
I
mean,
know
it's
I
really
know
Network,
what
Zodiac.
Benjamin
and
Button.
Zodiac.
Benjamin Button.
Freaking hell.
Panic Room.
The
We
thing
got
is,
Panic
the thing is, wait. So what? Yeah, out of the big ones we got left?
Zodiac or
I-
Social Network.
Yeah.
There's a correct decision here.
There is a
Oscar's
correct
gonna-
decision here, and
he's
what
gonna
I have
ruin
at
it.
number 2.
You're essentially picking number 1 right now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I'm picking number 1. So I'm taking the Social Network at number 2.
Yeah, but I'm gonna
Wow.
veto that
I
because
wanted
social
Zodiac
networks are
one
number
anyway.
1.
Let's go.
I can live with that. That's a pretty, very solid ranking in my opinion, actually.
Okay, so you got to pick another one.
Wait.
Well, I'm picking Zodiac.
Oh wait, so that means Zodiac's not gonna. Oh
Yeah,
no.
Zodiac's
This is
bad.
bad. This is
Wait.
bad,
If
actually.
he's no. If he vetoed my Social Network at 2, so I'll take Zodiac at 2. Then I'll have to settle for that.
There
Wait,
you go.
what?
Zodiac
Oh,
is
yeah,
two
yeah,
better.
yeah. Okay.
Get revenge.
So that means Alex, unless he picks something stupid, has to.
I'll take Social Network at 1. What am I gonna pick? Panic Room?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Oh my god. Okay, that
That was
actually that kind of worked. Honestly,
that was my
that's
top
not
4.
my ranking.
This is a lot better
Really?
than we did
Yeah.
Pixar.
Really?
That was a lot. better than
Zodiac's easy number 1. Easy number 1.
Zodiac
Wow.
is 1. What the fuck are we doing here?
Zodiac
no,
is
no.
1.
Social network.
Zodiac is 1.
Social Network
So-
is by far and away his best film.
The
I-
Zodiac is Zodiac, then it's Social Network,
No,
and then it's
like
Gone
social
Girl.
network, like all the way up there.
Wait,
and then,
did
like,
I-
did
I-
Gone Girl
I-
go undrafted?
I think Gone Girl is
No.
his best movie.
That was 3.
Now, Gone Girl went 3.
Yeah.
I picked
Gone Girl's
Girl.
3.
Yeah.
I could-
Killer,
I've got-
the Killer.
I've got
You got-
Zodiac
we
and
drafted it at
Seven
9.
Gone Girl.
I have the Killer. I think the Killer's his 4th best film,
I've got it at 7.
and you have it
I
at
have it
9.
at
I've got it at 6.
Wow.
The only one
I
I have
have it
lower
at
is
4.
Interesting.
Wait, what do you have?
Yeah,
above
you-
then?
I have
You guys
Fight
are lower
Club
on
is-
7, huh? I got 7 at 3.
I've got 7 at 5.
I have it at 5.
Yeah, Sam. 7's low key overrated though.
To be honest, I haven't rewatched it since I got into film.
Yeah.
7's kind of
and
overrated because
I-
it got too popular,
I-
and then everyone was like, the ending.
It's
And
almost
then-
in the
I
top
don't-
100 on
I
Letterboxd.
honestly think I honestly think the ending kind of carries it a bit. Kind of thinking about it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the relationship between Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. Like that
Yeah.
like old dog, new dog dynamic is so good. Like,
I just
and
need to
then Kevin
rewatch.
Spacey.
Like I've never seen it in theaters, and it's been a couple years since I've seen it. Like rewatched
Mm.
it. Like,
I watch it
4
about
years.
every year. Honestly, I love this movie.
I'm just glad Zodiac made it that high. I'm just happy with that.
Zodiac and Seven are like
I-
very interchangeable for me, I guess. They're like pretty comparable. And then
Yeah, I
the
do think
Sleeping with
Zodiac
Fight
is
Club,
a better
like,
superhero movie.
dude, if Fight Club didn't get adopted by these incels, people would herald it as his best work. I'm sorry.
I
Like,
agree,
it's just
dude. I
because
think
it's
people
Yeah.
would hate the audience for
It's,
it. more than
it's, it's his second worst work.
What?
Oh,
That's
such a
dude.
good
That's
movie.
great.
It's
It's
probably
like
going to be
Superman.
third worst when I watch Mank.
Like, it's great. Like it's better than
I-
I remembered it.
I think it's great. I would have a 4 out of 5, but it still sits in my penultimate spot on my rankings though.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
no
well, I
Mank,
guess-
but it's a good movie.
Oh my God, even worse. I guess this goes to show you that David Fincher isn't cut and dry. Like, I thought this was going to be a lot easier than it was. He's got a pretty big filmography with a wide range of films that are really good. So go check out David Fincher if you haven't. But that was our ranking, David Fincher ranking, and the Killer review. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. As always, follow us on our Letterboxd, Twitter, whatever. Comment what you think about the movie and tell us how wrong we are. But thanks a lot. Peace.